Long ago in Egypt, when the pyramids were still being built, there was a boy who lived in a very important city, but where he lived, it wasn't a very important part of town. Just a simple peasant hut. His mom worked hard, but what he did is he spent his time walking around town playing his flute. A flute he made from reeds cut by the Nile. And when he played his flute, his whole heart and soul went into his music. When he played in the marketplace, people would often throw coins to him. And while his mother appreciated the coins, she didn't appreciate the nature of what he was doing. Playing the flute. We're going to find your body dragged up on the Nile, half chewed on by crocodiles one day. You should get a real job. But he didn't. He still walked around playing that flute, pouring his heart and soul into his music. One day when he was walking around town, he came to a part of the city that he had never been in before. And he saw before him a huge wall of white stone gleaming in the light. And he thought, what's on the other side of that wall? He found a tree and climbed the tree, and he looked down into a garden full of green shrubs, fruit-bearing trees, flowers that made the air smell like the most expensive perfume. There was a fountain in the middle, and in the fountain, fish swam. And there was somebody sitting there, a girl. Her back was to him, but he could see her reflection in the water. And in the way of things, being just a very young man, he fell in love with her. And the only thing he could do was sit on that tree branch and play his flute. He played it with all of his heart and soul in the only way he knew how. He didn't even know if she heard him. She didn't move a muscle. And as the sun began to go down, he realized he needed to go home. So he climbed down from that tree and went home. And his mother said, I thought the crocodiles had gotten you. But he hardly heard her. His heart was so full. The next day he went out, and for a while he played in the marketplace, and people threw coins to him. And then he went back to that wall. He climbed that tree, and there she was, sitting by the fountain, her back to him, but he could see her reflection. He was hidden up in the tree among the leaves, and he played his flute with all his heart and soul in it. And he did this week after week after week. He dreamed that one day he would get up the nerve to go over that wall and talk to her. Maybe that one day they would marry, live together in a small little hut, and have a very simple life together. Oh, he knew he'd never have the nerve for that. But yet he still went and played that flute. Never sure if she heard him because she sat so still. One day while he was in the marketplace playing, he heard the women at the well talking, gossiping about the princess, the Pharaoh's daughter. It was the Pharaoh's palace that had that garden. Is that who sits in the garden? Oh, yes, it is the Pharaoh's daughter. Everybody knows that she spends her time in the garden. She is allowed no companions. That's Pharaoh's daughter? Oh, yes. They say she will make a grand marriage to one of the proud princes of Egypt. That's Pharaoh's daughter. His heart broke. Pharaoh's daughter. Any dream he ever had, any little bit of courage he might have had about going over that wall and talking to her just evaporated in the dry Egyptian air. Pharaoh's daughter. Somebody like him could never get within reach of her. There would always be walls between them. All the sadness he felt was poured into that music. And one of the old men who sat in the square said, "Boy, what's wrong? Your music is different today." "Oh, I can never be a prince of Egypt. I'm just a boy with a flute. They'll find me one day eaten up by the crocodiles, just like my mother says." "Ha! You should go see the old magician in the desert. He can change your soul." "Change my soul? Who is this magician in the desert?" "He lives far out into the oasis." "The oasis? The one that's far out into the mid—" "That's the one. If you go there, he will change your soul." He thought about it and he thought about it. If I could change my soul, I could become like a prince of Egypt, strong and cruel and hard. And then she will love me. Then she will marry me. He went outside the city gates and met up with a caravan that was traveling through the desert. It would take him near that oasis where the old magician lived. At night, he played his flute for them, and in return, they gave him food and a safe place to sleep while they traveled. And then before he left to head off for the oasis while they went on their travels, they gave him food for several nights. He eventually dragged himself into the oasis that belonged to the old magician. Sand in his hair and his eyes, coating his skin. "Are you the old magician?" "I am." "Can you help me?" "I will." And he put up a drink of cool water to his lips, washing away the sand, and fed him cool fruit. "Thank you." And the boy slept for 3 days. And when he awoke, the old magician was there. He was resting under a palm tree, just watching the boy sleep. "Tell me, what can I do for you?" "They say you can change a man's soul." "They say many things." "Can you change mine?" "What is wrong with your soul?" "Look at me. I'm just a peasant boy. I want to be like the princes of Egypt, strong and proud, cruel and hard." "And why would you want this?" "It is private." "I see. This is something I can do. What can you give me in return?" The boy looked down. He had the clothes he was wearing and his flute. "I can give you this." "I will do it." That night, the boy played his flute for the last time around the fire. The old magician's heart broke, hearing the boy's heart and soul in that music, and knowing that it would be no more when his work was done. The next morning, the magician said, "You know that once this is done, you can never go back. You will never be this person again. I understand." "Do you?" "Yes, I do." "Hand me your flute." And the boy gave it to him. And then they began the work. And meantime, out in Egypt, enemies attacked. And they ate away at Egypt's borders, and they killed Egypt's people. And the Pharaoh of Egypt fought back. His generals fought back, but his armies were defeated again and again and again. And one day, out of the desert marched a young prince. He marched into the Pharaoh's city and up to the gates of Pharaoh's palace, and he banged on the door. And such was his way of being, such was his demeanor, that the guards didn't question him at all. They just opened the gates and let him in and led him straight to Pharaoh's throne room. And the young prince said, "Pharaoh, I can save our country." And Pharaoh said, "If you can do this, I will give you anything you ask for, up to half my kingdom." And the young prince said, "Done." Pharaoh gave him a strong black stallion to ride and gave him command of all the armies. And the young prince went out and led those armies to victory. And with every victory, he sent back baskets of the decapitated heads and chopped off hands of the enemy. And when Pharaoh saw those brought into his throne room, he was pleased. Eventually, the young prince won the wars. Egypt's borders were reestablished and even expanded. And when he marched back, dressed all in black, riding on his black stallion, the armies behind him in victory, the crowds threw flowers along the way, cheering him. And when he approached Pharaoh's gates, they were flung open. And he leapt off his horse, landed lightly on his feet, and strode into the throne room. And the king said, "You have done well. Name your reward. Up to half my kingdom, it is yours." Pharaoh's daughter stood behind him, one hand on his throne. And the prince looked at her and said, "All I ask is for the hand of your daughter in marriage." Everybody, including Pharaoh, turned to look at the princess. And Pharaoh turned back and said, "Done." And the princess stepped out from behind her father's throne and said, "I will marry you, because my father has commanded it. But first, let me tell you a story. Some years back, I was sitting in the garden right here in this palace. I was so lonely. I am not allowed many companions. I was sitting by the fountain watching the fish. Even they had friends. I had none. All of a sudden, I heard this music coming as if from the heavens. And in that music, I heard everything that was in my heart and soul. I didn't dare move, but I could see the reflection of a boy down in the pond. And he was the one playing for me. He came back day after day after day for weeks. I was a silly girl, but I had this dream that maybe one day he would just slip over the wall and we would talk. That maybe he would take me away from this life and we could just have a simple hut someplace, be married. I had brothers plenty enough to rule this kingdom. And one day he didn't come anymore. I sent a servant out to find out what had happened to him. His mother said that he had probably been killed by a crocodile in the Nile. I wept for days. I will marry you because my father commands it. But you must know that I will never love you. My heart died that day with that boy. And the prince, who had once been that boy, looked at her. And he said, "I too once had a love like yours. I will not make you marry me. And he turned and he walked off into the desert, and he was never seen again. The Black Prince of Egypt.